Hello students, welcome to the next class. In this particular session, we are going to look how control flow works in Python. Now, what is the meaning of control flow? That means if there is a block of code and there are lines of code that depends upon certain condition, and that means if that condition is true, that means that code will be executed. Now, for example, if there is a condition like if true, and now remember to put this colon at the end of this if statement. In practice, when we studied C programming, there was no such thing, but in Python you must place colon at the end of if statement. Now if true, we are moving inside and it automatically gives the indentation, and we are print the condition was true. Now if we run this code, it is giving us the message the condition was true. Now if we change it to false, like there are two values, true and false. Now if we change this to false and if we run this code, okay, there is a mistake in spelling. Okay, and if we run this code, so what will happen? It is giving us no output. Now what is the meaning of that? Now if we are checking the condition is false, that means if the condition is false, this block will not be executed. Now for this, wherever the condition is false, there must be the else part. Now in this case, let us do something. The condition was false. Now if we run this code, now it is giving us the condition was false. So remember, the condition or this value, the boolean value, whenever it is true or false, the block of code inside this section will be executed based on this condition. Now whatever we write inside this section, let's say print hello world inside this, and now inside this we are printing by world. Now within this code, you can easily see, first, if the condition is false, the condition is false, it is not executing, this block is not getting executed. Now in the else part, this condition is, because this condition is false, that's why this is getting executed. So whenever the condition is false, if block will not be executed, but whenever the condition is false, which block will be executed? This is the else block. Now if we simply change it to again to true, now we run this, the condition was true, it is giving us the output hello world. Now let's suppose there is a variable, and we set it to that means the condition variable equals to true. And now we are here checking, we can check variable also. Condition c is this small, so you must check this, and we are checking if condition equals to true. Now what is supposed to be happen? Now we are not checking individually, like we have taken a variable, we have set its value to true, and then we are checking that particular variable to the boolean value. So the condition has the value true because condition is a variable, it contains the value true, and next we are checking that particular variable whether that variable is having true or false value. So now if we run this, so the condition was true, hello world. Now if we simply change it to false, now if we run this, so the condition was false. So if block will only be executed at the time whenever the condition is true. Whenever the condition is false, it will not be executed. But now in this case, what is happening over here? Now let me change this a little bit. Now I'm changing it to false. Now what is supposed to be happen? Now look very carefully. Currently in the previous execution, it was printing the condition was false by 1. Now we are checking if the condition equals to false. Now in this case, what is supposed to be happen? Now if we run this, it will execute this section of the code. Now why is it happening? Now let me run this, and it is getting executed. Now in this case, what is going to be happen? Now in this case, if I put parenthesis over here, so it is for your better understanding. Now this becomes a whole condition. Now this is the whole condition. Now we are using a comparison operator that is comparing whether the value inside the condition variable that is equal to false. Condition is a variable which contains a value false. So now this false is equal to this false. Now listen very carefully. This false is equal to this false. Now what is going to be happen? As a comparison operator, what is it doing is, this false is equal to this false, this whole condition is true. Now this whole condition is true, that's why it is getting printed. So now you should remember this thing also. Now this is how a basic control flow statements work. Now you can do anything, like let's say there is a language, there is a variable language equals to Python. Now there is a variable language that is equal to Python. Now let me check. If language equals to Python, then the condition was true and hello world, it will be printed. Now we run this. Okay, I missed that semicolon. Now we run this. What is going to be happen? The condition was true, because now what is going to be happen? There is a variable known as language. Language contains a string that is Python. Now in this case we are comparing that variable to Python. Now we are comparing the string inside language variable to another string Python. So that is true because language itself contains the string Python and it is equal to Python. Now that is okay for now. Now if we change it to, for example, the language equals to C, now what is going to be happen? Now it is giving the condition was false because the language, in the starting case the language was Python, and now we are comparing it to C, so it is false. What if I place not equal to over here? So we are checking whether language is not equal to C. So can you see, language is a variable that contains Python and we are checking whether Python is not equal to C. So as a whole this statement inside this parenthesis becomes true because language is not equal to Python. So now what will happen? The condition was true because Python is not equal to C. So this is how basically a control flow statement works. So for example, if you want to implement it somewhere, so let's say we want to find out whether a number is even number or odd number. So let's say there is a number that contains the value 23, a random number. Next, and we are checking how to check whether a number is even or odd in Python and any language. You can say we must divide the number by 2 and check whether the remainder is 0 or not. If the remainder is 0, that means that number is an even number, and the remainder is not equal to 0, that means the number is not even number. So if num modulus 2 equals to 0, if num modulus 2 equals to 0, then print the number is even, and in the else case print number is odd. So if we run this, so you can see 23 modulus 2, that means if you divide 23 by 2, it is giving us the remainder equals to 1, and since 1 is not equal to 0, that's why the condition is false. When the condition is false, the else plot will be executed. Now it is printing the number is odd. What if we change it to 24? It is giving us the number is even. So this is how a control flow statement works. Now there is another part. Apart from if and else, there are numerous problems you can solve using if else, based on if else in Python. For practice, you can solve numerous problems. Now if we move forward, there is something known as elif in this Python. In C it was known as else-if, but in Python it is known as elif. So what is the meaning of elif? So in C we have seen very meticulously that how an else-if statement works. Have a number, or let's say there are certain values. For example, x equals to uh, for example, there is a 0 to 100 values, and let me take a value uh, 20, for example, x equals to 20, and we are checking if x is less than equal to 10. That means we are print low. Again, we are checking if x is greater than 10 and x is less than equal to 30. In this case, suppose we are print moderate. After this, you're checking if x is greater than 30 and x is less than equal to 70. In this case, suppose we are printing high. After this, if x is greater than 70, in this case we are printing very high. Now in the else part, we are print ultra high, basically, for example. Now, so what is going to be printed? X is a value 20, and we're comparing each value and we are printing something. So this is basic if and else block. So if we run this, it is printing moderate high. Now you can see why it is printing two values. So because x is equal to 20, so it will print low. It will not be printed because x is less than equal to 10, but in this case x is equal to 20. Now coming to the second part, x is greater than 10 and x is less than 30. So what is going to be happen over here? It is printing moderate. Okay, so it is printing basically moderate. So because it falls under this category. Now suppose in this third condition, x is greater than 30, x is less than 70, the condition is false. If x is greater than 70, very high, and in the else part it is printing ultra high. So just for your understanding, why it is printing ultra high, just think about it. It is printing ultra high because this else part is not the else of these three ifs. This else part is the else part of this if, and in this case this condition is false because x is not greater than 70. So if this condition is false, this else is also getting executed. So this is a basic if and else working principle. So just if we replace this elif instead of this elif again, and here also elif. Now if we run this code, it is only printing the moderate. Now what is going to be happen over here? In elif case, what is going to happen? If the certain condition is true, suppose it was true in this case because x falls under this category. So if the certain condition is true, it will not even check the other condition in the case of elif. Whether it is true or whether it is false, it will not even check. For example, if we change this to x equals to 20 in this case, here x is equal to 20. So that means this condition is true, but it will not even get checked because the previous condition, this condition was true. So now if we run this again, it is moderate. Now suppose if we change this condition, so now what will happen? It will print very high. So this is how elif works in Python. So this was a basic if and else, and you can use logical operators, bitwise operators in control flow statements also. For example, let's say basically what we can do is, suppose there are two variables, let's say username equals to true and password is equals to true also. In this case, we are checking if user name and password In this case, we are checking username and password, so it is print. Let us print welcome, and else it will print bad credentials. Now if we run this, what will happen? So it is printing welcome because both user ID is true, username is true, and password is true. If even one thing is false, then we run this, so it is bad credential. If both things are false, now again bad credentials. So this is how you can use logical operation also, basically in the form of strings or in the form of variables. So let me change it. Suppose there is a string, string name is, let's say, string itself. String is equal to Delhi. Now you are changing, there is a string if we have to check whether e exists in that particular string or not. So if e in string, print yes, else print no. So in this case, what is going to be printed? E exists in string because e is this. If e in string, if you run, okay, there's a mistake. We have to put this inside single quote. If e in string, if we run this, it is yes. We are checking particular character inside a particular string. Now we check if z in strings. Now what will happen? It is no. So this is how we can use in operator also. Now what is in operator, that we'll discuss in our next session. For this control flow statement, this is how the syntax and it is, this is how it is working. So thank you very much. We'll see you in the next session. Have a good day.